What's the biggest thing that you felt like you had to learn?
Learning that you only been a father as long as they've been living. So
What?
you learn as they learn. You
Okay,
know,
okay.
recognizing that shucks, we all make mistakes. Just being able to own it. You know.
So along those lines, man, have you ever had to like apologize to your kid? Is there a moment where you remember
Yeah,
where you had to apologize to your kid?
of course. Even though that was, at one part of me was like, man, I ain't apologizing to my kid.
God forbid something happens to you today or tomorrow and you want to leave something with your kid. What's that thing that you want to leave with your kid?
All right, family, listen, we here for another interview. We got another father. Listen, you see him in my car. Listen, we're going to get the interviews any way we can. This is another father, but this is family. So it's a cousin of mine, and we're gonna jump into it, man. Just asking him about fatherhood from his perspective. Get a family perspective. So tell the people your name, man.
Yeah, Andy Crenshaw.
All right, and then what? How many kids you got, Andy?
Three, and their
Okay.
ages are 21, 18, and 16.
Okay. So what boy, girl, two girls, one
The
boy.
21 is a girl, 18 is a girl, and 16 is a boy. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you started with the girl first. Got your boy at
Yeah.
the end, huh? You got your boy at the
Hey,
end.
luck of the draw, luck of the draw.
No, I know that's right, man. Listen, hey, boys and girls are a blessing, man. But sometimes we be shooting for that boy. So,
Hey, you got that
nah,
right.
man, that's what's up. That's what's up. So, Andy, what do you do for work, man? What do you do for a profession?
Yeah, so I'm a branch manager at Wells Fargo. Yep,
Okay, okay,
been
okay,
in that
okay.
for a
So,
while.
man, so how
Yeah,
long you been doing that?
I've been a branch manager now for the last 2 years, but I've been with
Okay,
Wells Fargo for 14. Different styles of leadership roles and things like that. So it's
gotcha.
been great. Yeah, it's been great.
That's what's up, man. Listen, so that's a whole nother perspective because I had another father who was in the banking industry too. So I know that could be that could be pretty tedious and having to make sure that all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, all of that good
Yeah,
stuff.
you got that right.
Yeah, I already know it.
Yeah,
So, the reason I asked, man, the reason I asked what our fathers do for a profession, man, because I know that plays a role into how they are as a father, man. It kind of shows up in certain ways, whether it's leadership, whether it's training, whether it's whatever the case may be. So, I like for
right,
people to
right.
know. I like for the people to know what you guys do at this stage in your fatherhood, man. What has been the biggest thing that you've had to learn? I know that there's stages when they're babies, stages when
Yeah,
they're kind of middle school, and then stages when they become teenagers and young
yeah,
adults. So at this
yeah.
stage in fatherhood, man, what's the biggest thing that you felt like you had to learn?
Learning that you only been a father as long as they've been living. So
What?
you learn as they learn. You
Okay,
know,
okay.
recognizing that shucks, we all make mistakes, and
Yeah,
just being able to own it. You know, so
yeah,
that's been my biggest learning. And then getting to the point where they're so young, where they always want to be around, and then they
right.
get to that age where their room
But they
is
don't
more
want to be
important
around.
than anything. You know.
Right. No, that's what's up, man. Because I think about, you know, and I say this all the time, so I'm glad you said that, man. I talk about how as much as we're trying to teach them and pour into them, they're teaching and showing us
Yeah.
things every single day. I mean, let
Right.
alone technology. Forget about technology, but just
Yeah.
how to interact with somebody younger than you that's got to be in the house with you every single day. Like it's a real thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so how do you balance? Because that's a great segue, man. How do you balance, learning from them, but also making sure that line is clear about, oh, hey, this is dad talking, but because sometimes I feel like the perception is either parents can be too hard or they can be too soft. So how do
Yeah.
you find that balance, man, with your kids?
Man, I don't, man, and
Okay.
that's the biggest learning. I mean, because the thing about it is, I mean, when we start thinking about balance, being that first time ever having a daughter, or then first time ever having two daughters, it's like
Right.
what is the balance? They got different emotions that we've never experienced in our lives. Yeah,
Mm.
when you think about the life changes that they go through, and then start dealing with, boys and in
Oh
school.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, for my girls, that's been some of the things, to really be able to try to balance is, hey, I'm going to show up. I'm going to be stern, and I'm stern for a reason. I don't mind giving a lot of the whys of why I'm doing what I'm doing, just
Right,
because of the fact in the matter, it's real. It's real out here. I don't want no guy, feeling as if, the first time my daughter ever seen something was from a total stranger. I
wow,
want them
wow.
to be able to, understand that, hey, it's nice restaurants out here. My dad took me to them already. You
Right.
know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you took me shopping. Oh well, my dad did this already. Or
Yeah, setting the
so
standard. Yeah,
yeah, set the standard, man. Set the
yeah.
standard. I think about, when my middle child was young, who's not an 18-year-old. I mean, she was able to understand how to order a steak at a fine dining institution when she was 6, 7 years old. She'd
Oh, that's
look at
what's
the
up.
waiter and say, hey, I want it rare. Yeah. And so,
Right.
yeah. So, and I mean, that's one of the things I made sure I pride myself on. And then for my son, having them understand not to be a pushover, have
Mm.
them understand, yeah. And my girls say, Dad, you treat them so different. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It is.
It almost has to be though. It gotta be.
It
It
has
gotta
to
be.
be, man. It
I mean,
has to.
we're two different people, boys and
Exactly.
girls. Yeah,
Exactly. So, when teaching him and showing by example,
yeah.
how to treat women, but also at the
Mhm.
same time, don't get dogged out by women. Yeah, now
That's
don't
real. That's
push over,
real.
and
Yeah.
then being able to balance his responsibilities and being accountable for those things, and to really understand what's the meaning it is to stand up tall, chest high, chin up. Even though I give my girls that same lesson, but for
Right.
my boy, it was really, really different when it's a true meaning to standing up high,
Yeah.
respecting, knowing where your name came from, and having some honor about it and not being ashamed of it. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Man, that's powerful, man, because you're talking about, you're talking about the family name, like,
yeah,
what that name means, what that Crenshaw name means, man. So,
right.
I mean, speaking to along those lines, man, what has been the biggest thing that you've learned, like with fatherhood and how that reflected on your father? So, like, sometimes we don't see a thing until we become fathers, and then you have to kind of
Right.
reflect back. So for you, man, what was that thing that was like a reflection moment for you being a
Oh,
dad and then looking at what, how your father rolled, how he moved?
yeah.
Listen, family, if you're enjoying these conversations, take a second to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Now let's get back to the interview.
It was always, I never understood at the moment, why the little tidbits and the foundational learning,
Yeah.
to play. And, you know, we lost that. We lost them in January.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that took a big hit. So,
Yeah.
now reflecting back, you think about those things like, man, it's a reason he said what he said,
Right.
and then you
Right.
see it coming out more, when talking to your children and really being able to kind of help them mold that way. And, I always
Yeah.
just ask that question, like, why is he giving these little tidbits and staying so
Right.
calm through it? Now, we've seen him
Mm,
upset, but,
of course.
but now it makes sense. Now it makes sense
Yeah.
because those were foundational learnings that,
Mm,
never, you never think that you would get, understand as a child.
yeah.
And so I'm glad I was privileged, to really be able to
Yeah.
have that, have that opportunity. So yeah, man.
Absolutely. Nah, man, listen, and it's tough anytime that you don't have that man around, that father around who has poured so much into you. But I appreciate you sharing that, man, because I believe it's important from a generational perspective, right? Because
the first inkling of us learning to be a father, man, is from our father. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
for some of us who didn't have their father early on or never had a dad and they were raised by their mom, man, they don't get that perspective, man. So I
yeah.
really do appreciate you sharing that, man. I really do. And it makes me think about like times where we have to step back and realize that, oh, I did this thing wrong, or I should have corrected this in the moment.
Right,
So along those lines, man, have you ever had to like apologize to your kids? Is there a moment where you remember where
man.
you had to apologize to your kids?
Of course, of course. You know,
Yeah.
even though that was, at one part of me was like, man, I ain't apologizing to my kids,
Right,
man.
right, right.
But it's like shucks, this is what it's gonna be, and this is how it's gonna be. But
Absolutely.
I set the stage to explain the whys to them, and never
Mm.
realized setting that stage for them and explaining the why to them also opens up the door for them to continue not understanding why we're doing what we're doing, right? And so
Say that, man. That's key.
so it took apologizing in the moment or even at a later time about situations that you might not have understood why I was doing what I was doing, and it might
Right.
have seemed rough, and maybe I could have went overboard, or sometimes I did go overboard
Sure,
based
sure.
off of how I felt or based
Yep.
off of even how you interpret it. But at the end of the day, you realize that those things that I was doing really made you a better person. But I apologize because I didn't, at their age, they don't understand. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Our life
mm.
choices at 20s, 30s, and 40s is
Yeah.
so much different. And then our bringing up is so much different than what these kids are experiencing today.
Talk
So,
about it. Yeah.
when we had to be off the phone by 9 o'clock, at night, yeah,
Right. Right.
or
The
your
house
parents to pick
phone
up the
too, not a
phone,
cell
your
phone,
mama,
the house phone.
yeah,
Yeah, the house
exactly, the
phone.
house phone, right? And then your parents pick up the phone like, you don't see what time it is,
Right, right, right. What you
so
doing on the
yeah,
line? Yeah.
exactly. And then balancing that act of, back in the day, all the parents were doing that. So you didn't feel left out, right? So
Right, right.
understanding that, why are you sending a text at 10 o'clock at night? You should be in the bed, or you should be asleep, or they should be asleep. But then having some understanding that we're in a whole new generation,
Yeah.
So on one end, do I want my kid to almost not be or seen as, man, your dad's stern, they super stern, and then they battling with that emotionally
Yep.
on the other
Yep.
end. So
No, that's
that's one of those cases, man, when you think about really going back and apologizing to your kid on, hey, again, that's where I learned the concept. Hey, I only been a dad as long as you've been alive,
I
so
love that, man.
some of
I
those
absolutely
things you
love
got to
that.
forgive. Oh yeah,
Right. No, that's powerful, man, because
oh yeah.
you're putting into perspective like what it really means because you don't know what you don't know until you're in it. You can
Yeah,
read
you
all
in
the
it,
books,
man.
you can read all the this and that, but you don't know what it is until you're in it, man.
Yeah, you in it full fledged, and that's why
Absolutely.
I've also heard people say, why grandparents, love their life a little bit more because they
Mm.
made all the mistakes with us, man.
Yo, I'm writing that down, man. I'm writing that down. That's real. They really
And
did.
say,
They really
shucks,
did.
they made all the
Now they now
mistakes
they
with
now they
us.
living it up. They ain't gotta worry
Now they
about much
living it
now.
up, right? Now they living it up. Now they, now they know how to be stern in the right way without,
Right.
knocking your teeth out. But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes we needed it. Sometimes we needed it. You
hey,
know
we
how it
did.
goes.
We definitely did. We definitely did.
So man, that's crazy you say that because I know how, we had similar all our family is
Correct.
raising us, Susie,
Yeah, yeah,
Grandma Annie, you know what I mean? And them being sisters. And so when it comes to raising your kids, what's one thing you've actually taken from our grandparents? Because I know we talked about, our parents, but we spent so much time with our grandparents that I feel like that was a
yeah.
level of like learning that we took with us as well, man. What was one thing that you learned from your grandparents that you take into your parenting now as a
Man,
father?
Go outside and find you some shade. How about don't come in his house?
Don't come in this house
Don't come
until it get dark.
find some shade. Nah, but ultimately, man, I mean, it was as I think back, it was to think about. I mean, because it's so many things, man. It's so many things. As I
Yeah.
think about, grandma and our great aunts, and it wasn't just one grandmother, man. I mean, our
Right.
great aunts were our grandmother. Our great uncles was
Yeah.
our,
Yeah.
so
It was a huge
it was a
village.
village, man. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I look at is really foundational stuff for understanding, like, why do you work? Why do you work so hard?
Mm.
This is how we got what we got, right? And
Right.
really
Right.
understanding the work that they put in to make sure that we got what we got. And really, those things that they taught us, we never understood it at the time.
Yeah.
Waking up early in the morning to go pick some weeds out the flower bed, but that was
Exactly.
teaching us how to be able to, teaching us how to. Now that we're adults, we don't
Yeah.
mind getting up and going to work.
Absolutely.
It's those little things. So those are the things that I definitely made sure I instilled in the children
Yeah.
and my children, is that, hey, you're gonna have chores, and it's the reason you're doing these chores.
Yeah.
You're gonna go outside, you're gonna do these things. It's a reason you're going outside and doing these things, because you need to find something to be innovative, right? Because I
Absolutely.
mean, think
Absolutely.
about those people that created a lot, those great inventors. They weren't inventors by just sitting in there twiddling their thumbs. They were inventors because they was outside messing up,
That's a fact. Yeah.
and made it right. Yeah.
You gotta
So
so you gotta go get it by any means necessary. And it's a
yeah,
level of, like, what I hear you saying, man, it's a level of, like, you know, failure is part of the game. So if you're not
right.
willing to try, if you're not willing to go out there, then you're gonna be behind the eight ball, or you'll never know what you could have done.
Yeah.
You never
Correct.
know
Correct.
where you could have been. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man, because I think a lot of times we've lost that. There's a level of, like, laziness. Let's just be real. It's
Oh yeah.
laziness
Oh
with,
yeah.
with our kids, and some of it's on us. Some of it's on
Yeah.
us. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? But
Absolutely.
like you said, I love how you still had some things that you pulled from, from our elders, from our grandparents, that really is permeating into your kids today, man. Because I see them, man. They're doing great things, man. So
Yeah, man.
yeah, God forbid something happens to you today or tomorrow, and you want to leave something with your kids, but you want to make sure that it's something that's gonna sit with them. What's that thing that you want to leave with your kids
Oh
about that?
man. Let's see here. Shucks, that's a good question, man. Because there's so many things that I think about. It will be, if I had to narrow it down into something just so simple, it'll be, continue to work hard.
Mm,
Don't look for nobody to give you nothing.
right,
Let somebody giving you something, is they didn't have to, right? Because you
right,
already had it. You already worked hard for it.
yeah,
And continue to fight. I mean, because at the end of the day, just like our parents, just like our grandparents paved the way for the things that we have today. I'm hoping that the things, how I raised them, paved the way
yeah,
for them to do what they needed to do. So at the end of the day, they can look at it and say, you know what, Dad might have been hard, Dad might have been, stern, but Dad did everything in his willpower to make sure that I got what I got.
yeah,
So that's my goal, man. That's my goal. Yep.
man. I listen. I absolutely love that, man. Listen, family, that's
Yeah.
another interview. Andy said it all, man. If y'all need to go back and rewatch it, go back and rewatch it. But listen, if y'all like this content, if y'all like what we're trying to expose in this world, there's fathers out here doing the work every single day. Like, share, and subscribe. It's the only way we're going to get this message out. So, till the next interview, peace,
Appreciate it.
sir.